Good afternoon and welcome to another intoxicating episode of Historical Analysis Sock Puppet Theatre.
Today on our programme we examine the intricate political, economic and social issues inherent in the sugar, molasses and rum trade between the New England colonies and the French and British West Indies.
We will navigate the oceans and traverse the centuries to discover the motivations of the participants and the results of their actions in a time of uninhibited smuggling, excessive rum guzzling, and inevitable politicking. All in 10 minutes or less.
So, sit back, take a sip of that delicious Planters Punch, and embark with us upon an adventure unlike any other.
And now, from rum to revolution, imperial perspectives and colonial attitudes regarding the sugar, molasses, and rum trade between the beginning of the transformation of a byproduct of industrial waste to a viable economic commodity and the formation of the United States of America. The year is 1627. The first wave of British settlers arrived on the island of Barbados with instructions to cultivate a crop to supplement the mother country's demand. Indigo and cotton quickly failed, as did tobacco. Then they tried sugar.
As English sugar consumption rose in the mid-1600s, partially as a result of the introduction of coffee, chocolate and tea, and became less of an aristocratic luxury and more of a staple good across class lines, it became the foremost commodity produced in the British West Indies.
On the plantations, life was, to put it mildly, difficult. Yellow fever, malaria, and dysentery were commonplace, and the islands were overrun with rat infestations that cost plantation owners incredible amounts of sugarcane.
There remained one other issue the planter had to master: what to do with the waste generated in the sugaring process.
Molasses, the scum scraped off the bottom of the pots during the refining process, had no practical use and was disposed of, and there was a lot of it. 3 parts molasses to 4 parts sugar. Beyond being used as a supplement for cattle's feed or slaves' food, no one knew what to do with this waste until someone noticed that molasses yeasted quickly and decided to try distilling it. Thus rum was born.
Although it got its first taste of fame on the British island of Barbados, sugar, molasses, and rum production was also prevalent in the French West Indies. In fact, in the early 18th century, the French islands began to expand their sugar production operations to such an extent that they soon exceeded that of the British sugar islands.
The high demand in England combined with the British islands' lesser production rate made French prices much lower than British. The French too found a market for molasses in North American colonies, where New England distillers were only too happy to purchase the less expensive French product.
As British sugar sales continued to decline and the island plantations began to fall into ruin, the French sugar trade continued to grow. British West Indies sugar planters feared their North American market being threatened by the French islands and began a grand parliamentary quest to prohibit the importation of sugar, molasses, and rum from the French West Indies into the North American colonies.
Many who had made their fortunes as sugar planters in the West Indies bought seats in Parliament. By 1730, these men, known as the West Indian Interest, held such power within Parliament that they managed to convince the House of Commons to pass a measure that would effectively outlaw the North American foreign sugar, molasses and rum trade by imposing a 6 pence duty per gallon of imported foreign molasses, equating to a 100% tax on imported French molasses, though it was brought up short by the House of Lords.